everyone, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build video. And today I'm going to be creating this nostalgic 60s early 2000s inspired British street slash estate. Now I say estate, I don't actually believe this is an estate because an estate is like much bigger, like way bigger than this, but I wanted to create something that I think pretty much every single person within Britain has probably seen on the way to school, the way from school, driving by, probably lived inside of themselves. And yeah, so this is what I decided to create because I have this really odd fascination with all things to do with just kind of 60s 70s inspired architecture in the UK, just because these kind of things where they've got these like paneling upon brick is just so specifically UK. Like, I know that we have other designs like Victorian designs, and we have early 2000s new build designs, semi-detached 90s designs, and all of these other great amazing things, but I really do think about these 60s inspired semi-detached. And I know that we do have elements of this maybe in other countries because this is very a mid-century styled design, but I know specifically within the UK that we have a lot of these, so that's why I decided to make yet another one of these. And if you're wondering, you've made one of these before? Not to this extent. I've done a flat before in this kind of style because I normally see them in flats, and this will not be the end of me of doing stuff in this particular design, because I think one of the reasons that really pushed me into doing stuff like in this design was, weirdly enough, I never stayed on campus during university, but I did see a lot of the accommodations and they looked a lot like this, so I was just always so hyper exposed to this kind of like look, especially with when we were at our old building. A lot of their accommodations that kind of looked like this, so I just kind of, I don't know, I'm just so deeply exposed to it that I just always feel like creating something like this. I feel like above anything else in my head, this feels like the most authentically British thing, just because, I don't know, maybe just because of the way I lived, and a lot of things around my area was very inspired. Even growing up was very inspired by 60s design. I've only ever really lived within the 60s in terms of architecture, so I think that's why I find so much nostalgia in creating stuff like this. And again, it's another day of me looking at a build and thinking it looks really nice in white. Like, if I did this as white brick, it would have looked even nicer, but I don't know, I ended up deciding to do it this way. But I do think I add white paneling to this house. Do I not? That'll be weird if I don't. Do I add white paneling or do I add brown paneling? I think I add brown paneling in, actually, now that I'm looking at it. I don't actually add white paneling to anything, but imagination. Wait, no, I do. I use it at the bottom of the middle one, and now you're probably looking at it and you're probably thinking this is like a mix of a lot of different designs, because it is. I got my original inspiration for the first one off of a website, and then I got the middle ones was actually like a row, but I ended up just taking one individual design because I couldn't pick which design I wanted to. So instead of making 3 back to back, I just did these different designs and hoped for the best. Because if you can see, and you probably saw it in the intro, there is like those outside garages, which is also like a common thing you see in these 60s builds, because not a lot of people had built-in garages. So there is I'm building it now, actually. There is that outside garage looking kind of thing, and this is where you would keep your cars, or maybe even storage if you needed to, and these will be alongside the builds, so not next to them, but maybe like opposite them. So you would park your car in there if you needed to, and you'll come out and you'll walk towards your house rather than leave it on the street, because the streets will either get crowded or you aren't able to leave it on the street. But I've done one yellow line, so I think this means, I think I should know, I did do my theory test like 2 months ago. I think this should mean that you can park it, because it's double yellow lines that you can't park, and red single lines you can't park at or wait at any time, because you normally see those in cities. Look at that, having fun little British theory test with theory question, theory trivia with me early as well. It's not gonna be early in the morning for you. It actually might be. I need to remember this is an international audience I'm talking to. But yeah, there's a little bit of British trivia for you if you ever decide to drive here. I'm still waiting for that. But you know what? I'm doing good. I'm going back to it. I'm doing lessons again. So hopefully sometime soon. But anyway, I know you're thinking, Emerald Stories, what kind of timetable is this? You've been gone for like 9 days. I thought we were gonna do it once a week. What timetable is this? I have been trying to aim to do every Friday at 2 p.m. Obviously, it's not Friday, it's Saturday, because yesterday I got extremely distracted because I bought a stand mixer not too long ago and I cannot stop baking. I've been making bread. No, actually, we got a multitude of things. So let me talk you guys through it before I really go back into this. We bought a stand mixer. Well, I bought a stand mixer, and then my mom brought a electric pressure cooker that you can do a lot of things in, like rice cook and all of these things. I'm not going to say the brands because if you want me to say your brand, sponsor me. But we brought a lot of different types of things, so we've just been doing a lot of things very homemade, and I've just been obsessed. So every week there has been some kind of cake, some kind of cookies, some kind of bread, especially bread, because one of the things that I always envied as a child, because even as a child I used to watch this show called Barefoot Contestant, and I used to watch that during the day because I didn't realize that I had such an avid fascination with cooking. Like I knew I liked it, but not to that extent. I used to watch British Bake Off, but the ones with the kids instead, because I think that's what was on CBBC. I used to watch Big Cook, Little Cook. I used to love the episodes in Strawberry Shortcake when she would do like her tea parties and everything. I just loved the communicative abilities of food creation. I love Come Dine With Me. It's like one of my favorite shows. I just love the ability to have dinner parties and to share food and that kind of thing, and the whole process of it. Like the actual eating part, it's great and I love that, but the whole journey of it is one of my favorite things ever. And I think it's one of the things besides actually, like, you know, making Sims 4 builds that I really do enjoy the process of, because it is sometimes more fun than the final result. And yeah, I've always just had such a good like relationship with food creation that I think my relationship with food creation has been so great that when it doesn't go right, it really hits me. But even still, if I've got the ingredients, I'll just keep going again and again and again. It took me 6 years to learn how to make chocolate chip cookies. Above all other things, bear in mind, I picked food preparation for my GCSEs, so I have qualifications in it and I do it. I've cooked for myself since I was like 13 because I love cooking food. But chocolate chip cookies was always a challenge. Croissants, wait, have I ever made a croissant? Actually, that could be a fib. Bread, I have made bread. I've made pizza. I've made lasagna, homemade pasta. I've made a multitude of things, but chocolate chip cookies would always stump me because I never knew of the fact that you have to leave them to cool, because I would take them out of the oven and then they would just be like this really soft, soggy mess. And I would think I need to put them back in the oven and then they'll just become really hard, like biscuits rather than cookies. And then because of the rise of social media and people showcasing different techniques and being so really like open with showcasing, like, you know, like answering questions through like videos and stuff, I was able to see the direct technique you need to use to make chocolate chip cookies. So it was never really, it was a slight issue on the recipe side because even still the dough would always be so sticky like cake batter, but this time around it's just like the perfect mold. Like I can mix it in my hand and it would just make that form. And I think the issue always was is that I think there's a lot of things you can sacrifice to make cookies, but the one thing you can't sacrifice is the sugar ratio, because with sugar you have to also, by the way, you're going to look at this kitchen. This kitchen's really nice. This kitchen really adds to the vibe. But I do change this kitchen to look more like the early 2000s, late 90s instead of the 60s vintage style. I end up making this specific, very tiled, very kind of almost cold kitchen for the tall one. That tall building has that kind of kitchen, whilst this kitchen has a more homey vibe, just because I knew I'm going to put Sims here. So I wanted to have that homey vibe. But yeah, that's why it's going to look different. But the kitchen actually looked really cute. It looked very open and very big and everything, but I just wanted to have that feeling of like this is quite an old home. So this is something that has like furniture from the 90s, and I like to imagine the date of this is in 2005 specifically, and I'll explain why later. But let me just continue my story about chocolate chip cookies. With chocolate chip cookies, you can't really sacrifice the sugar. I know so much that some of you may want to if you ever make them, especially in my household. Diabetes is a rampant thing between both sides of my family, so we need to conserve on sugar. But it's like, I don't have diabetes, so, but it's like a thing, since it's such a prevalent thing within both sides of my family, it's something that I always need to look out for. So we try our best to have zero sugar things. We try our best to minimize sugar where we can, and we can do things like this in cakes. We can do things like this in like just a variety of avenues, but within cookies, not biscuits, because you can do this with biscuits, but in cookies specifically, that chewiness of a cookie has to come from that high amount of sugar. If you try and sacrifice the sugar, it ends up being very cakey. It tastes like a cake or a biscuit. It does not have that chewiness. So I had to really learn that, okay, I really need to keep that sugar within the cookies themselves. But what I did to sacrifice that is that I just used the most bitter dark chocolate I can, just to try and balance it out. And then if I'm eating a cookie, I'm gonna have it with like milk that's like semi-skimmed or something like that, just so we don't have as much sugar with that sweet treat. And then so that's what I had to realize: to really make a good cookie, you need to have that sugar. You really have to have that sugar, specifically that dark molasses sugar. And then I also learned that when it's soft, you can also get like a tin, like a shape of the things you normally use for scones or something. Scones. And you just kind of like shake it around until it becomes that kind of like pushed together gooey thing. And it's so good. My cookies are amazing. They're amazing. But then I've left the other cookies to go in the freezer because I just got inspired again to make a lemon and strawberry cake, loaf tin cake, and it's so gorgeous. And then I made homemade pizza dough, and then right now we have donut dough. So we've been doing quite a bit of baking. So I've been like really like into that, as well as I've been doing a lot of things because I'm going back to university soon. I picked up to do a short course, so I've been doing that. I've been doing some interviews for jobs, and I've been doing some other things on the side and some other things on the side. So it's just been a lot of things. So that's why it ended up delaying to this day. But I'm gonna try and keep it on Friday at 2 p.m. That's what my head is telling me. That's what I'm planning to do. So I'm going to try and keep it at Friday 2 p.m. because it's not that I don't have builds. I have builds. I actually have like 3 in the backlog now. But it's just taking the time to edit them, to do the voiceovers, do the thumbnails. And I've seen your messages, I've seen your comments. I also need to upload the tray files from even the Christmas builds. So there's just like a lot I have to do on top of that. So I'm going to try my best, maybe not this weekend, but hopefully by the next video I should have answered as many comments as I can and have uploaded as many tray files as I can as well, just because I want to have everything just kind of up to date and concise, so now that when I do my weekly uploads, everything can come all together at once. But now back onto the build. So as you can see, the rooms in this build and the entire build itself is just quite colourful on the inside. I've become really infatuated by colour since I did the warehouse. This is going to be counterproductive. This is going to be countered because in the future there is a build I made the start of 2025 which is completely minimalist, so that's going to go against this kind of vibe. But ever since the warehouse, I've just been not as afraid of color, and since this is a 2000s build, I was like, this has to have the 2000s color. So within the kids room, I tried to make it as best as, if any of you watched CBBC or if you ever had what was it called? It's not ITV, CITV. Yeah. Or if you ever watch CITV, so like My Parents Are Aliens, the Bratz TV show, which was one of the best shows ever. And then on CBBC, you had things like The Dumping Ground. You had Tracy Beaker. You had things like, what else did we have on CBBC? Because I'm trying to name like the colorful shows, because I was an avid Wolf Blood, Young Dracula fans, and Spartacle Mysteries fan. So I'm trying to think of like the shows that aren't those fantasy ones, sci-fi ones. I'm trying to think of like just the really abrupt ones. Even on CBeebies, Big Cook, Little Cook, all those kind of shows, they had very bright bedrooms. So I tried to make the kids' room look like they've watched a lot of CITV, CBBC, and they've gone to their parents and like, I want to have that room. So that's what I tried to do when it came to the layout. What I also tried to do is that a common thing within a lot of British builds, and I think this is a thing that can also happen with like American builds as well, but there is shelf space on windows, and we don't actually have a lot of that in The Sims, if at all. I think the only thing I can think of is in Eco Lifestyle, and that's not really like a proper shelf space. So I tried to make sure I can lay out the rooms enough so I can put shelves by the windows, so you can actually have things on the shelves, because that's a common thing we also have in the UK, where people just put that window shelf is just another shelf for a multitude of things to go on top of. And yeah, I just try to add that vibe. And then the towel on the radiator, even though you're not really supposed to cover the radiators, that just the entire thing. I think if I could have added one more thing to really cement the look of this, I would have added a Hoover, but that would require me to get the Dust Bunny kit, and you know, me and kits, we're not close like that. I am an expansion pack girly and a game pack girly, maybe stuff pack, and rarely kit pack. But I might just look for the funds to get the Dust Bunny one, because I really want to vacuum. I really want to vacuum. But yeah, we're coming up to the tour part of this, and sorry if the lighting looks a little bit weird. I forgot to change my G shade to the one that I used to do the tours, so it still looks like the one I used to build, but a little darker. But yeah, basically this is my nostalgic British rebuild. I really hope you guys like it. It was a lot of fun to do, and I think I didn't mean to, but it goes really well along with the nostalgic thing The Sims 4 has going on, the nostalgic game pack, not game pack, but the nostalgic events they have going on. So yeah, it's really cute and I really love it, and I'm so happy with how it turns out, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but if you don't want to, that's also okay. I appreciate you staying this long and listening to all of my ramblings. Also, don't forget to leave a comment down below. I read all your comments, the more the merrier, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.